Turnkey with Morgan Francis, sponsored by Integrity Roofing.
Welcome to Turnkey on Queen City News Plus, your go-to show for everything real estate in the Carolinas. We talk about the latest market trends, do's and don'ts of the industry, and provide expert advice on navigating this dynamic landscape that we call home. I am your host, Morgan Francis, and today we have a guest who specializes in equestrian estates, which I feel like isn't something we typically see in real estate. Julie Breedlove with Breedlove Farms, Estates, and Land. Julie, you're no stranger, right? We know each other previously.
We know each other.
I've done 2 stories with you before.
Right.
One was at Goodwill Estates in South Carolina.
Exactly.
It's like a $17 million property, I think.
Right. 700 and some acres down in Eastover.
Yeah. And then the first one we did together was the owners of Whack-A-Mole, the people who...
Created it.
Yeah. And they were selling an equestrian estate as well.
Right up in Morganton.
How did you get into, I already know the answer to this because I know Julie, but how did you get into equestrian estates, such a niche area of real estate?
Well, I have a sales background and have done a lot of driving in my business. So fortunately, I didn't even think about the fact that I was going to have to cover a large area. The market crashed. I had to go back to work, and I had spent 3 or 4 years trying to find a horse farm myself. And realized there was not one agent that was willing to really help me because I was looking in a variety of areas. And so when the market crashed and I had to go back to work, I said, well, I'm going to sell horse farms, which really over the years has turned into be more country lifestyles because there's a lot of reasons people buy horse farms and sometimes they don't even have horses. So that was how I got into it.
And you're a horse lover as well. Do you have horses still?
Yeah, I'm down to 1 horse retired, but I did since I was 6. I grew up with horses and a variety of disciplines, so that helps me, I guess, communicate, educate clients, and depending on what they're looking for, one type of rider is not going to want the same thing as another type of rider.
And that's something that I actually learned from doing stories with you is just, it's not even just like a racing horse versus a riding horse. There are like different layers within each category.
Right.
And, the horses that just kind of perform with how they walk and dance, I guess, would be my description of it. That's the dumbed down version. But I learned so much about just equestrian estates and horses through doing stories with you. You mentioned that some of your clients are just looking for that country lifestyle.
Right.
What would you say like the percentages of people who are looking for equestrian estates of people who are truly like lovers of, horses or versus people who are just looking for country lifestyle?
I would probably say 25% actually are equestrians, have horses. The other percentage it's a whole gamut of different reasons. They have dogs, they have collector cars, and they like the barns for the shop. They're hunters, they're homeschoolers, so they like to have a hobby farm. Just a lot of different reasons people are buying the properties. Probably the most important is privacy.
And when you view a property, we're looking at some of the estates that these are all your listings, all the footage that we have. How do you price out something like this? I mean, it's just so different than your average listing.
It's very challenging, depending on the property. Some a little simpler than others. And sometimes I end up having to break it down, find out how much is the property worth price per acre, and then how much is that house worth if that same house was sitting on this much acreage, but I have to compare it to a house on 1 acre. How much is that barn worth? Over the years, having seen, hundreds of appraisals, I've started using the numbers that I see appraisers typically give for those types of different aspects of the property. So it's a process.
Do the appraisers ever reach out to you?
All the time.
I would think so.
Yeah,
because
do all the time.
You're almost becoming or are more experienced in pricing these properties than they are probably.
Yeah, what happens is they start looking for comparables when they're trying to do appraisals and they see my name on majority of them. So then they pick up the phone and call because I've seen that property. I've seen that barn. I know kind of the value for it and what I've seen in the past.
Just the barns and again, I learned this from doing stories with you, is it's not like, oh, this is, a stable for horses or what.
Hmm.
It's the type of gait
Right.
sometimes that they have that is really unique. I'm thinking about the Whack-A-Mole property specifically. They had, I think it was a really special gate, and they could enter and exit through the front and the back of their stall.
Right, right.
There-
Those were mesh gates, and then the back, the Dutch doors were the
Dutch doors.
ability, and that just for cross ventilation. It's just more expensive product when you're putting the barn together.
Hmm.
The different sizes stalls, and does a barn have a bathroom? Does it have an office? All the things that a barn might or might not have is going to factor into the price.
Something that I love that you do that I don't see a lot is you make these brochures, and they're very detailed, and that might sound like, oh, doesn't every agent do this? No, they don't. It's like it's very detailed uh list of what the property has to offer. And one of the properties, and we can actually punch it up here, this is in Monroe. This is one of your listings. Um, Tell me about this one, and then we'll kind of get into how you put all of this
Mm.
together, because it's extensive.
It is, and thank God I have a team of 4 people.
You don't do all this
No,
yourself?
no. It's very time consuming, as
Yeah.
you can imagine, and I need to be out available
Yeah.
to work with buyers and other listing clients. It's Heartland Springs in Monroe. Is 48-acre property. The owner spent 5 years taking what was, hate to say this, but a crappy little farm,
Mm-hmm.
and tearing down everything and cleaning the property up and just building a sanctuary. It's like you're in the middle of the mountains, yet you're only 45 minutes to Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
With the ponds, fishing.
They're
There's
stocked, right?
Yeah,
I thought I saw they're stocked.
yeah,
So if you're into fishing,
yeah, and they're big enough that you can paddleboard, you can kayak on them.
mm-hmm.
It's truly a sanctuary, and they have used it as a retreat. They've had their daughter's wedding there.
Mm.
They share the property with their church community.
Okay, because in this video at some point, I believe, we are going to see like an outdoor kind of church retreat. And I wondered, when I was looking through it initially, is this a camp or what? What is this? So
Yeah.
their church actually has like outdoor services there?
They'll have events there for the church.
Mhm.
There's no other than he's a deacon in the church, the owner is, and they're just very generous with the property and allow them to come out. They have women retreats, men retreats. They'll have spend Sundays afternoons out there. It's just very generous of them to share it with so many people, and so many people have got to enjoy it.
And this one's listed at $4,250,000.
Correct.
How many acres are we
It's
talking?
48 acres.
Okay.
The house is over 6,000 square feet. It's built in
Mhm.
2024, custom built. It's got a guest house, and then it's got the barn, quote unquote, which
Mhm.
is 5,000 square feet that could be used for a menagerie of different things. They use it for holidays, gatherings, sermons, education. Again, a lot of different reasons they have offered it to the community.
Well, it's a cool property, and it's got to be kind of fun to go through some of these. And I mean, just the video alone, that I imagine would take us.
Yeah, that's an all day affair.
I always kind of think, if you calculated like a real estate agent, how much time they spend to get a listing ready for market, their price their price tag would probably be a little bit higher than what they end up making in the long run. But really, really cool property. We have 2 more that I want to talk about. We do have to take a quick commercial break, but we're going to highlight one from Polkton and another one from Statesville coming up in just a little bit. More Turnkey after this. Welcome back to Turnkey on Queen City News Plus. We've been talking with Julie Breedlove, who specializes in equestrian estates, but you have a lot more properties than just equestrian estates. I would imagine that it's so niche that some people would think, how can you make a living just kind of specializing in this one area of real estate? Have you heard that before?
I have. When I first went into business and said I'm going to sell horse farms at the time, I had a lot of broker in charges just sort of look at me and say, good luck with that. But because I had background of driving all over the state of North Carolina in my previous business, I didn't think twice about having to cover a large area.
Mhm.
A lot of realtors, they cover a county. I cover probably 30 counties,
Mm.
North and South Carolina, from down by Columbia up into the mountains, up in Banner Elk. I've got a 10-acre horse farm. So, needless to say, I put 30,000 miles on my car every year.
EV or gas?
Yeah, it got to be gas because I can waste my time charging my car 3 or 4 times a day.
You can't charge it at an equestrian estate.
Yeah.
They don't have those lines.
You'd actually be surprised
Okay.
how many of my clients now do have EV
Oh, okay.
chargers. I thought about that. I would much rather have an EV car, but unfortunately won't work.
Yeah, I think it'd be a little bit easier to find a gas station than a
Yes.
charging station.
Yep.
And you don't want to get into that when you're in the middle of nowhere. There are for average Joe might not understand the whole like MLS
Right.
and how you have to be a member of certain MLSs. Could you explain that? Because I'm willing to bet that you have to be a member of multiple MLSs just based off of like your coverage area.
Right. So each MLS is, got a certain area of coverage, certain counties.
Multiple listing
geographic.
service, by the
Yes,
way. We
multiple
forgot to explain
Yes.
that part of it.
Yeah.
That's where all the properties go with real estate agents, and they can type stuff in and find the best house for you. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. So it's like you can't find a possible house in the mountains in certain areas in the Charlotte MLS, or the South Carolina, Columbia area is not going to be the Charlotte MLS. So, and then Winston-Salem, Greensboro is not part of Charlotte MLS. So in order to cover that area, I have to be a member and somewhat of an expert. I know a little about a lot of areas. So I'm a member of 4 MLS systems.
Okay.
Yeah. So that I can have access to those properties and get my properties in those systems.
And to be a member, what do you have to do?
Spend a lot of money.
I thought you would say that. I just didn't know how you would say it.
Yeah, well.
But yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Obviously, you have to have access to all of that. I did see something interesting. I don't know if you've heard about this yet, but there is like this campaign for like a statewide or nationwide MLS. I haven't read a whole lot about it, but I didn't know if that would be beneficial down the line.
I know there are some people that use that, but I think that we're a long ways from that
becoming commonplace.
Yes, yeah. And there's a lot of other ways to get your properties, especially these type of properties out there. We don't advertise just in the MLS. We've got to advertise on land and horse farm relevant sites because that's where people are looking. They're not necessarily looking in realtor.com or Zillow.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that as we punch up one of your other properties. This is Polkton. Is this one equestrian or is
Yes.
this? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Because I remember one of them that we're going to feature is not. I think that's the Statesville one. So yeah, you were saying though that you market these types of properties on your own website. I would think now that you have the reputation, that's just where people go, right?
I get a lot of activity on my website, over 1,000 visits a month. Horseproperties.net, land.com, farm and ranch, just lots of different sites that we as individuals advertise on versus the firm advertising.
Do people who are like in that equestrian like area of real estate, do they all kind of know certain properties? And because I would think it's a club, right?
Yeah, we definitely have equestrian agents that get together on a monthly basis all over the U.S. Some people from outside of the U.S. get together, talk about our properties, try to get more exposure. Social media is, as much as I don't like social media, it's very important for my business because there's so many groups that are equestrian or country lifestyle related groups that we can get our properties in front of.
So tell me about this one. This is Polkton. I have it in my notes as 1.8 million.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
What are the details on this one?
So, first of all, nobody knows where Polkton is.
I do.
Yeah.
I know where Polkton is because I asked Julie 15
That's
minutes
right.
ago.
And the good news is it's not all the way into Polkton.
Mhm.
People look up Polkton and they think, oh my God, it's way out there.
Mhm.
It's really on the Charlotte side of Polkton. So it's about 45 minutes from Charlotte.
Mhm.
It's a 30-acre horse farm. The people that built it, I sold the second time I'm selling it.
Mm.
The people that built it were serious equestrians, and they built this really beautiful 14-stall barn. It's European inspired barn with all the bells and whistles, and the arena, the large arena, 125 by 225 feet, and beautiful pasture land. The house is a Southern living style home. But this is definitely one that is calling to the equestrians. The current owners had horses when they moved there. Now they're down to 2 donkeys and having to move to Ohio.
Okay, interesting. Usually it's I feel like the reverse. People from Ohio, Midwest are sick of the winters and they come here. Uh, do you ever so in real estate, like the fixtures stay, right? The chandeliers, the curtains, the sink, all that stuff, right?
I know where this is going.
Do the horses stay? Is that part of the deal, or
It depends. I've
they're
had horses.
they're family? They're part of the family.
Yeah, I've had horses included. I've had donkeys included. I've had a dog included.
A dog?
No, the dog kept running back home, so they ended up keeping the dog.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, yeah.
real homeward bound story.
Right, right. The owners didn't move far enough away, apparently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So how do you price out that in a home? Does that go? What does the paperwork look like? Because it's not like a deed. You don't include the horse,
Called a bill of sale.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it just depends. If you're getting a 15-year-old horse, you may not be paying as much as you are for a 5-year-old horse.
Mhm.
And just it's all over the board. And sometimes we're really involved in those decision-making process. And sometimes we let the seller and the buyer kind of work that out between themselves.
Yeah, quality of life, I feel like, when a horse is at that age.
Yeah.
Okay, we have one more property that I want to talk about. We do have to take one more quick commercial break, but when we come back, another Statesville property that Julie has listed. More Turnkey after this. Welcome back to Turnkey on Queen City News Plus. Today we are joined by Julie Breedlove with Breedlove Farms, Estates, and Land in Premier Sotheby's as well. Julie, how does that relationship between your own firm and Premier Sotheby's work out?
Yeah, it actually is. I've been there about 2.5 years, and it was really a great fit because Premier Sotheby's, has this international presence. They have a luxury
Well known
market.
for it, right?
Yeah, luxury market, and then I've got the farms, and we joined together. I joined their firm, and they allowed us to co-market as Breedlove Farms, Estates, and Land with Premier Sotheby's, and all the benefits of being with their firm, in addition to our history of our own firm and success of our own firm. It's been a great fit.
Yeah, it sounds like it would be kind of the perfect marriage. For anyone out there who might be looking for a Lake Norman home, but maybe you don't want to be kind of in the busyness of Mooresville, we have the home for you. This one is in Statesville, $4 million. And I say someone who wants that Lake Norman home because it kind of does look like something that would be right on the water in Mooresville, but then you've got this like country aspect to it.
Right. Yeah. This property is 160 acres, built by a builder that has built lots of Lake Norman homes, has since retired, Chris Knight, but very well known. And it's a home that's been put in the middle of 160 acres of beautiful pasture land, woods, trails. They have built or grew a vineyard, orchard, has a great 3,000 plus square foot building that could be used. They use it for their toys, to ATVs, their cars. It could be converted to a horse barn. Just, again, another property with a lot of versatility, but it's got the privacy and the space to open your door and let your dog run outside and not worry about where he's going.
So, vineyard, does that mean that you're going to add sommelier to your title, that you're going to have to be an expert? You got to try the wine, right?
Yeah. I did get to eat the grapes this year,
Okay.
and they were good. They were really good.
Okay.
Other than a lot of big seeds.
Yeah, I would imagine.
They had quite the harvest.
I would think that, your viewing of a property and going to price it out for sale, it's got to be fun. I mean, do you go on like ATVs around the property? You're like an outdoors gal. I mean, you get to view the whole. You have to view the whole property.
Right. And that's what I like about my job. It is fun. I would go nuts selling cookie cutter houses. I mean, we're out on ATVs. We did a photo shoot this last week on a new property. It's got a big pond, and the guy had a good bit of money, and he bought a lot of toys. And one of the toys we filmed was I don't know what you call it, but it goes from the ground out into the water and then back.
Like a hovercraft?
Less than a hover. It had wheels, big wheels it went, and then wheels made it swim, I guess. And then riding around on the ATVs and the trails. We're outside all the time, so I feel like healthy real estate.
Yeah, you get the fresh air. You probably get your steps in too, I would imagine.
Yeah, sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
On average, and this is kind of a loaded question because how do you do an on average when you like all your properties that you market are so different?
Right.
But on average, how much time do you put into marketing a single property? I mean, like I mentioned this earlier, but these brochures are, I mean, each page has just like a ton of info about each property. It's and I know you said you have a team, but how many hours goes into this?
I would say between the photography, the initial appointments, making all the notes, details, I would guess, I don't know, maybe 60, 80 hours.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of work. But there's so much detail involved in these properties. Buyers are maybe looking at 2 or 3 properties a day, and they're not going to get brochures like that on these other properties. And we want to be sure when they go away that they have what they need to really digest what did they just see. Mm-hmm. It also helps me remember about the property too.
It's like taking notes in class in high school when you have extensive notes, and
right.
You don't really need to look back at them because you spent all the time to write them all.
Exactly. It's a great way for me to really learn the property so we can, obviously sell it.
I would imagine, too, the people who are looking at properties that are, out away from the city, it's not like they're spending half the day and they're going around to 6 properties in Charlotte or maybe the whole day and they're just hitting one after another after another. I would think that it's a lot more intentional shopping.
Yeah, I would say it's not unusual for our listing appointment, our
showing
appointments. See, you're getting good at this.
I got the lingo.
You got it. It's not unusual for one of our showing appointments to last 2 hours. Mm-hmm. And they really need to allow for at least 2 hours, where another, you could look at another house in 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 or 3 a day is probably all that people are going to be looking at.
Mm-hmm. Any final thoughts, Julie? It's been fun having you on the show.
Thank you. It's been great. It's a fun market. There's lots of reasons to buy horse farms or country estates, and we really have a lot in common with our clients because that's how we were raised.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on Turnkey. Everyone else out there, appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.